while you were off, Sal, the one day, I think he was on with me on Thursday, and Sal's just beautiful. As he was getting ready to leave, like, I'm leaving, I'm going to be gone for a week. I want to leave you with this. Because I asked him, I think, near the end of our conversation, because it dawns on me sometimes that I don't anyway, usually pin Sal down on, like, you got a guy, like we talk, you'll ask me, like, I'm crushing on this safety from South Carolina or this guy or that guy. And Sal, I don't feel like I ever really asked that question. So I'm like, you got a favorite idea? Is there something you like or don't like or anything like that? And he thought about it for a moment and said, you know what, I want to leave you with this. I would be, I don't know if he said stunned, but at least surprised or very surprised if they don't use all three of those early picks, 2 in the second and 1 in the first on defense. And I thought, wow, okay, that's worth like putting to the audience. So I ended up talking about that a lot on Thursday. And I think it's really ignoring receiver. I do think I get the defense point, and our guest just said it again last segment. You see what the Eagles did. Yeah, it took me like a week to get past the Super Bowl and realize I don't need to beat them by 20. I just need to beat them, and I've almost beaten them 2 years in a row. And yes, the defense has not had good days in either one of those games. I also had the ball in our hands with 2 minutes to go or thereabouts with a touchdown to win the game or at least put me in the lead. So, I don't know. Like, some people still might be overreacting to the Eagles and because I'm not going to build a team that can do that to the Eagles this offseason or do that to the Chiefs in this offseason. Maybe you could do it over the course of 2 or 3 drafts. But that's not going to just happen. They're going to flip a switch and draft 3 guys, and all of a sudden I'm going to make Patrick Mahomes look scared or something. So, and they still, I think, have a need for another receiver, either in the system, like as a development guy, or actually on the field. So I don't think I'm down for all 3 of those picks going on defense. I think a receiver is called for by Friday night.
803-0550. Here's Pete with us. Hi, Pete.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. 2 points, one with respect to the draft, one with respect to Allen. If I were operating the Bills, this is what I would do if I was operating the draft. Trade back and then back into that like 35 to 90 portion of the draft, picks 35 to 90. Optimally trade James Cook. I think he had a very good season, but I think that had a lot to do with offensive line play and how teams defend Allen. And then with respect to Allen, I actually think that so we're talking about speed at receiver and things like that. I think we're at like year 6 or 7 with Allen on the team. And I think the team's moves or lack of moves kind of show that he might not have the most accurate deep arm. Because I struggle to come up with a receiver that they've gotten who's a burner, like a decent burner. Not like Bum Stevenson from Houston or the corpse of Valdez Scantling, like a legitimate prime of career deep threat. And it's not because they're cheap. I mean, they're spending money all over the board, but like, where's the deep speed? And it's been years. And so I just think the guy's obviously, he's got a rocket arm, but for whatever reason, maybe it's the wind in the stadium. I think he struggles to throw deep.
If you remember, Pete, when he was younger, that was a recurring thing, missing the long ball. And that's not always the quarterback's fault. But as much talent as he showed, even if he was erratic, like first couple of years as a player, that was a consistent thing that he would miss on a long attempt. So I've never thought of this point you're making as like a judgment on him. I feel like it's more of a failure of the organization, but maybe you have a point here.
Yeah. And what do you guys think about that draft strategy? So moving back and then back into round 4.
I think if it's predicated on getting something substantive for James Cook, I think it's flimsy, because I think that's going to be a hard. I sitting here today, and not that you're saying different, I'd be surprised. You're just suggesting they do this. I'd be surprised if they shop him because I just don't think they'll get return that will satisfy them or, for that matter, us. Not that we really matter out here, the fans. But I think with the window that they're in, it will make more sense for them to keep going and expect that Cook is going to come in and honor the last year of his contract. Now, if they get to a point where they feel like that's not going to happen, if that happens before the draft, then maybe they pivot and do something. But I don't know. My money at this point would be on he plays under that contract, and then they figure out what they're doing with him next offseason, and most likely that means he's leaving.
I have a few thoughts, and they kind of bump into each other. I would always be for trading down. I've said it forever. The draft is an imperfect thing, and it's one more bullet. So I'm always for that. I wonder if the Bills doing what they did last year, which is trading down twice to get out of the first round, might be a reason why they wouldn't do it here. That doesn't have to be a good reason, but I don't know. I feel like that you wouldn't want to be labeled necessarily for that, or you might, but I don't think Bean would. He's traded up a number of times, so that doesn't have to be a thing. What you have in this draft, if they were to move out of the first round, you have this logical guess people make about the Browns and the Giants moving up for their quarterback there, and there's a couple different ways that could go. Those teams draft right at the beginning of the second round. This would be last year. Mm-hmm. If the Bills did this. Start, like if it's Cleveland, have the first pick of the second round, which I think is great. The Bills didn't really take advantage of it last year, having the whole day to negotiate with teams. They just went and picked their guy, which I thought was disappointing. The value of that move might be a fourth. And then I get to this point. Oh, by the way, the Browns and the Giants also have picks in the late third. Well, actually, I can make this work. Is that me? Or is that you?
Sorry.
If this math kind of works, say the Giants want to trade up for Shadur Sanders or Jackson Dart from the second round to the first round. The Bills have the 10 picks. You make the point a lot. Sal's made the points. They're not going to want necessarily all those picks. So you throw in a fifth or even a fourth. They have 2 fourths. So I'm giving up pick 30 and say pick 132. And that'd be equivalent to pick 34 and pick 99, which is late third. Again, the Browns and the Giants both have an early third and a late third. So maybe the math works there. Then I have the same number of picks, and maybe I can even do better than that. I like the third round. I think in this draft, and I'm not sure it's ever different, but I feel like it is with, like the caller is mentioning 35 to 90. Why is he saying that? Because, like you say, people seem to think it's even earlier than that, possibly in the first round.
I'm more like 15 to 60.
Okay,
but still,
that's like a whole tier of one.
Right.
If that extends to the third round, I want to be in there. I think a third round pick is great for flexibility. Somebody's getting antsy, and you have that pick, but they don't have it. They can't engage without the third. You can trade one of your seconds and get one. That's what I'd want to do. I want to be in the third round, and especially if it's kind of just a flat tier, because some of the guys you're going to love that you have much better grades on are going to be on the board in the middle of the third round because of the way this draft sets up. So I'd want that. I think that'd be my hope for the Bills, is the Giants or the Browns want to do that. They don't pick Sanders up high. Now, like the betting odds are not expecting that to happen. But they want to get in. If he makes it to 30, you get the 50-year option there. The idea of the Browns having Hunter and Sanders, both from Colorado, I think that's pretty cool. For a team that never wins anything, you've got something there. You're getting away from the Watson stench. And here, we're going to put the Heisman Trophy winner and his quarterback, who's Deion Sanders' kid, on the field. Let's have some fun. We're Cleveland. I know they say it's not supposed to be fun, but maybe we can make it fun. I think that kind of is more than fun, though. I think that's also, sensible.
They probably are going to have to do something. I mean, dramatic, the Browns. I don't know. But something more dramatic than re-signing Joe Flacco, which happened late in the week, by the way, in case you missed that while you were traveling to Canada to watch curling.
I pulled over and sobbed when I heard it.
But, I mean, not that I mean, Myles Garrett got his money. He got the bag. He's committed. But I assume there was some talk. Well, maybe I shouldn't assume that, about the direction, because that was the thought initially, was that I don't care about going to Canton. I want to win the Super Bowl. And so get me out of here. And, here's the truck full of cash. I'm staying. What's the plan at quarterback? Joe Flacco? You have to get busy there pretty quick. With him and them and the team, I think. So I think that makes sense from their end. And not that allowing either the Giants or the Browns, or some other team for that matter, to come back into the first round to draft their quarterback should stick to you the way that allowing the Kansas City Chiefs to draft a receiver who, objectively, I think you could certainly argue the Bills had a need for that style of player. Whatever reason, they didn't like him or didn't like him in that spot, so they didn't do it, and they let the Chiefs do it by making the trade. Where you started is kind of where I am. They'll never say it. I mean, nor would I want them to. I'd be stunned if they traded back this year out of the first round after doing it last year and the results.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't thinking about the results, but you could.
Yeah.
Maybe you should.
And again, that's not necessarily a good reason. No, you still have a job to do, and you have last year doesn't matter now. All right, what's how do I max out here? What do I get max value out of this situation I'm in? But I just would be stunned if they traded back this year.
I'd want to have the first pick.
At least in the first round anyway. Sorry.
Yeah. I'd want to have the first pick of the second round every year. Just give me. By the way, it's also kind of like a dream to just have a whole day where it starts with me. So what do you want? You want somebody right here? Let me know. Let's deal. Thank you, Pete. Good thoughts there. Getting connected with the fans.